Hello and welcome to As the CMMC Churns. I'm Matt Titcomb, the founder of Peak InfoSec. Peak InfoSec is an authorized CMMC third-party assessment organization. I'm also a CMMC certified assessor and CMMC curriculum developer. This week's episode of As the CMMC Churns is CMMC FUD. So we're going to talk about something here, and I want to be upfront with everybody. This is not a recommendation to do anything. If you're walking away thinking I'm telling you not to be implementing 800-171 and to avoid doing it, you are wrong. Let's just be really clear and upfront. I'm just kind of frustrated at some of the marketing, so it's more of this is a Matt rant, just to kind of be honest, but also make you guys a little bit more aware of what's going on. So when we look at FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, they're used to emotionally goad people into activity. These are the same types of tactics that are used in ransomware types of attacks, or, hey, it's that classic, if you don't contact me now, your great uncle from Nigeria, you may not get his multi-million-dollar inheritance. That's fear and that's uncertainty. And then greed gets thrown in on some of these. Now, the simple facts, again, DFAR 7008, 7012 have been in existence since 2017. If you have those in your contractual requirements, you are required to comply. That means go implement. And then the other thing is waiting for CMMC and all this changes going on will not make this requirement go away. It's actually only getting tighter. The few weeks ago, again, we're now in April, the DoD CIO presented at and spoke at the Senate at the cybersecurity conference, Senate hearing, blah. And as a result of that, he actually updated and stated the fact that CMMC is going forward, and the Senate did not push back against that. So we're seeing things move forward, that this is not only going to remain 800-171 compliance, a DoD thing, this is going to move federal. So just be ready for that. Now, there's a lot of chicken little-itis going on out there that's causing everybody to run around in fear and panic and drive you guys into more fear and panic. So these are the main sources. We're going to cover them in more detail in a couple slides. But this is what's driving all this insanity and the marketing and the pushing and the sales that you're seeing right now as a part of the defense industrial base. Now, why do we see so much of this? Well, I'm sorry to say, there's a whole bunch of y'all sitting on the fence. And that guy needs to move forward about one notch to actually position where you really are sitting. It's not on a nice simple top. And because of everybody fence sitting, or even sitting on the other side of the fence of avoiding implementing 800-171, we're seeing this come up as a marketing tactic. So the issue is fundamentally, all of y'all that are sitting on the fence or just simply avoiding doing this, you're either following the CMMC implementation myth, which is a myth, we've debunked that before, and you're stuck in the bargaining phase and avoiding, trying to hope that this is going to go away, put your head in the sand. Not going to work. Just telling you honestly. The sooner you start implementing, the cheaper it is. That's the fact. Now, the other thing is, because so many of y'all are on the fence or on the other side of the fence, and rollout is sliding to the right, we as a C3PO have been impacted by these delays. Companies are resorting to fear, uncertainty, and doubt to drive sales. They've made pitches, they've grown, etc. Well, they've got to keep their staff. And so they're trying to motivate you, unfortunately, into getting into compliance. Not the right answer. Simple reality is, yes, you need to become compliant, and we should not be using FUD tactics to get you into compliance. So let's start talking about these. And we're going to put FUD on the right, or FUD on the left, and then facts on the right. And as we walk through these, we're going to walk through them a little bit at a time. There's a lot more nuances and a lot more spins going on, but we're going to hit the main threads here. So, the FUD, if you don't implement this, you might be subject to a False Claims Act. True. That is true. However, the simple reality of this is the lower you go in that supply chain, the less likely this is going to happen. Now, prime, tier 1, tier 2, yes. If you screw this up, you will attract DoD's attention. You don't want that attention. Now, there are things that are changing with this, with the DFAR 7024 clause and 7020, pushing this down. And then as we move in as C3POs and we start certifying the ecosystem, that risk, which is right now fairly low, and if you're really at the bottom, you're just getting started and you're not a mentor protege program or anything like that, you're just really at the bottom, you're pretty negligible risk. But as we start moving into the ecosystem and start reporting on that risk is going to go up. So this is not a perpetual state. So don't plan on this being this way forever. Again, when you put a light on something, things get seen, DoD and Department of Justice will take action. Just kind of recognize that's the reality of it. Now, the other thing that's going on a lot is, if you don't use FedRAMP for everything, you aren't compliant. That's false. Okay, the DoD requires FedRAMP compliant, moderate compliant cloud service providers for those that store, process, or transmit CUI. We use Cisco Duo Security Commercial. Yep, commercial. And we were certified for it. We use other commercial services that are not storing, processing, or transmitting CUI that do protect us. And that's fine. You just have to document it as a part of your certification effort. So DFAR 70, 19, and 20 are actually starting to cause some issues for everybody. Now, let's kind of walk through this as we go. In 70, 19, if you don't have an SPRS scoring, you won't be on a contract. Maybe true. Really would have been true, but there was recently a protest and OMB got involved and actually accepted the company that DoD gave the contract to, didn't have an SPRS score, and actually then later came in lower. So there's some wiggle room in this. Again, protests cause all types of weirdness. But the simple reality is DoD contracting officers are not going to be awarding contracts if you do not have an SPRS scoring. It will be impacting you. Now, as you go further down that supply chain, again, your risk drops off, less visibility, less understanding the further down you go. Again, it's kind of like playing telephone game. So you want to make sure you're getting your SPRS score in and updated and maintained. Now, 7020 is that part where you're no longer that prime or that first tier. You are now in the supply chain and you're flowing it down per paragraph G. Now, there is no defined score if your score is not high enough. Nobody's established that. I've heard 55, I've heard 75, yeah. But primes are forcing their supply chains to improve their scores. Now again, the further down you go, the less this becomes a factor. Now, right now when DIBCAC is coming in and doing audits, they're doing DFAR 7012 checks. We fully expect that we will start to see, not only for DIBCAC and potentially in C3POs in the future, we will be coming in and doing DFAR 7020 check, 12 and 20 checks. Are you properly flowing down contracts to people that have submitted a basic assessment in the past year, and if there's anything that they're non-compliant for, they have a POEM and they're working it. Now, we also, because it's optional, but we do highly encourage all of our clients to go ahead and have all of your suppliers and subcontractors submit an SPRS score. Yeah, that's for your CYA, not for them. Again, if you get hit, you get audited, you want to be able to prove your due diligence, and then you've got proof. And if they lied to DOD and DOJ, realistically, that's now completely down on them. So go ahead, have your supply chain submit SPRS scores. Now, DFAR 7024 is the new kid on the block. That just went into effect in March of 2023. Now, this is already driving consternation and confusion and is a new source of FUD. Now, the simple reality is the FUD is that, yes, your SPRS score will be used against you in a contract award. Yep, that's true. It is very true. And it was being done before this clause came out, just to be honest. Now, as an ex-program manager, I'm all for this. I would have been cheering for this because when I'm handing my information as DoD off to you, I'm accepting risk. This is a technical evaluation criteria of cybersecurity risk transfer. I'm good with that. Now, again, tiers. That prime and first tier and second tier, etc. Yes, this is going to start to impact you. You start to go down the supply chain. This is going to have a lower risk, again, as you continue to go on. Now, what this is doing, this is forcing primes to become more and more choosy about who is on their team and their scores. Now, realistically, DoD is also seeing a lot of bait and switch going on, like, oh, we're advertising these companies on our team, and when they actually get awarded, they change. And DoD is starting to clamp down on that and is going to start to restrict that and come back against the prime for those changes. So flipping that flips the risk of what DoD acquired and their expectations at that point in time. Now, this is driving a change. DFAR 7019, 20, and 24 are impacting the ecosystem today. It is creating a new market pressure that is driving what we refer to as school bus stratification. So the simple fact is, in the next year or two, you're going to see all the cool kids, the primes, and subs with high SPR scores who've been or JVSA certified are going to be in the back of the bus. Now, when CMMC certified, you're going to see everybody want to get in the back of the bus, and so you can be in amongst the cool kids. This is also where the higher profit is. Further back you go, while further to the top of the supply chain you get, that's where the profit is. The further down you go, the worse the profit. Same thing with being cool. Likewise, as you get your score starts to drop and you become tier 3 or lower, you're going to kind of move to that middle ground. You're kind of cool, but you're not in the front of the bus. You're kind of in that middle ground. Now, the front of the bus is where all the uncool kids are going to go. All the subs are suppliers without or very low SPRS score. And if you're remaining in that state, you will be pushed to the front of the bus and your profit margins will go down and you will see less and less contracts. This is what is going to happen over the next couple years. So be ready for it. Start improving your scores now. Start implementing 800-171 now. And even start being ready to advertise how you're doing that. Now, CMMC rulemaking is another big source of FUD, and there's a whole lot of the uncertainty, and that's really what we're talking about here, that DoD is generating. You know, this was supposed to have started back in last year, 2022. Yeah, 2022, we were supposed to be moving forward, kumbaya, supposed to be out, rule was supposed to be done. Yeah, as of April 2023, it has yet to even leave the Pentagon. We're hearing it's supposed to leave the Pentagon in the next, month, which means realistically, it won't hit the streets for comment, and most likely, in my opinion, will not go into real effect until fiscal year 25, 1 October 2024. But the ecosystem's got to spin up and be ready for it. So, actual calendar year 2025 is when you should expect CMMC to start to take effect for new contracts. Now, the simple thing is, waiting for CMMC rulemaking to finish does not help you. Again, you're required to implement 800-171, not CMMC. Again, DoD has already reduced your cost and complexity as it's defined now. Rule comes out, it could change. that, they're trying to reduce your certification scope versus your implementation scope, a way to reduce a little bit of your costs. Now, the hard part about this is when CMMC goes into effect, again, likely in fiscal year 25, we authorized C3POs are expecting a panic stampede to get certified. And we're going to be saturated. What happens when demand outweighs supply? Prices go up. You're competing now for limited resources, etc., so you can expect costs to go up for CMMC certifications. It's kind of the way it goes in the market. And it'll go through a pipe, and then it'll probably drop down to somewhere a little bit lower. Now, again, there's things you can do right now. You can work with C3POs. We can go ahead and submit you for a joint voluntary surveillance assessment, get it early. Pros, cons, risks. There's potential other things we could do just simply for letters of attestation. Market purposes only. There's no reciprocity, but those are things that you could look at and how to reduce some of these future costs for you. Now, the other big source of churn going on that's generating FUD is 800-171 Revision 3. Well, the simple fact is, yes, it is coming, and it will likely have more requirements, and we're an advocate of more requirements. Now, this has to go through public comment. It's supposed to come out this summer. I'm betting June, July. All those comments, and this is going to be commented to death, just like CMMC will be. However, what we saw, an effort to try and pull some stuff up by DoD, they were mostly administrative. There was not a whole lot of new technical. And we, as an authorized C3PO, cannot go and assess Revision 3 until 171 Alpha is out for Revision 3. So again, that can only come out after 171 is published. That's got to go through its own draft review and publication process. So realistically, expect a 2 to 3 year lag from the time Rev 3 is published till we start certifications using it. Now, will this be more expensive? Oh yeah, you're hearing that one too. Well, the simple reality is, again, if Rev 3 brings more administrative controls, your policies, plans, procedures, those type of things, much like we saw in CMMC version 1.0, those are going to be examination-centric only. They're quick to do. So I don't expect costs to significantly increase from 171 Revision 2 to 171 Revision 3 and its implications on the CMMC assessment guide. Just being honest. So let's sum up. Caveat emptor. Be aware as a buyer. There's a lot of pressures forcing you to make emotional decisions that may not be the right decisions. Now, any decision, frankly, that you are moving forward and implementing CMMC, wrong way to phrase that, implementing 800-171 and getting ready for CMMC, good. Doing it because you're being good at using fear, uncertainty, and doubt, bad. There's a lot of FUD being used to drive sales. Don't let it drive you. Make wise decisions and make calculated strategic business decisions. And remember, TFARS compliance has been around 2017, so we are now in 5+ years since this has gone into effect, and you're required to comply today. 7019, 20, and 24 are going to drive the school bus stratification. Be ready for it. And then lastly, 800-171 Revision 3 is coming. Plan for it now and prepare for it in 2 to 3 years. Even when you see the draft come out, start looking at those requirements and start figuring how you're going to implement them and how you're going to fulfill them. It's pretty easy. Just look at the verb noun mappings and you'll kind of figure out the assessment objectives that'll fall out. Next week, as the CMMC Churns, we'll be talking about vulnerability management for remote workers. And again, I'm Matt Titcomb with Peak InfoSec, and thanks for joining us.